Hello all, welcome to the SecurityTube GNU Debugger course and certification. Now this is part 10 and in this video we will talk about conditional breakpoints. Now if you'd like the PDF slides or the code file, you can either tweet this video or subscribe to the SGDE course for just $50. If you subscribe, you will get high definition downloads of the video along with the slides, the code, the opportunity to try out a mock exam, and then finally give the certification exam. If you pass in the certification exam, we will also award you with an e-certificate for the SGDE. Okay, so we've looked at breakpoints a lot in the last couple of videos. But what really are conditional breakpoints and when do you need them? Now let's go back to some code to try and understand different scenarios when regular breakpoints do not work and you need a little bit of more firepower. So I have a very simple C program in which I've defined a counter which is 10. We simply decrement the counter and keep printing it. After that, we have a simple string compare with argument 1, which is the command line argument which we pass in, which is compared against a ha ha ha. And if this is what the user input as the command line argument, we print correct password, else we say, hey, you know what, sorry, please try again. Now let's run this program. Let me kind of give it a quick trial run. Say demo pass, and if you see a simple countdown from 9 to 0 as expected, and it says, hey, sorry, please try again, because demo pass is not the actual passphrase it is searching for. Okay, so what I've done is I have two versions of this program, main, which is actually compiled with debug symbols, and main underscore no debug, which is compiled without debug symbols. Let me load up main with debug symbols in GDB first, and let's first define a simple problem. What I want to do is inspect what's happening inside this loop when the value of counter is 5. Now based on whatever you've learned, you know that, hey, the step is add a breakpoint for some instruction inside the loop and then run the program with some sample input. This is the very first time we actually hit a statement inside the loop. Unfortunately, as expected, the value of counter would be 9, which means we need to continue the program. At this point, the counter would be decremented by 1 more, which would mean the value would be 8. And as you can probably imagine, we would keep continuing till the time the value of counter does not get to 5, at which point now we can do whatever we want, right, depending on the complexity of the program. Now as you can well imagine, this is not scalable, right? Loops are just one such conditions. There could be places where, well, you know, user defined input may drive bugs and errors, where in reality you really want to apply conditions, right? If this happens, that's the only time when I'm interested in looking at what's happening in the program, right? This is where conditional breakpoints come in. Conditional breakpoints allow you to break only if a certain condition is met, right? These conditions can be very simple ones as well as arbitrarily complex ones as well. Now I'll show you some simple examples just to get you started. Now depending on what you're debugging, of course, you can have many more complex expressions. So let me first create a breakpoint in line number 10. This is of course a very simple breakpoint. If we do info breakpoints, you're going to see that we've set a breakpoint at line 10. Now what we are interested in is when the value of the variable counter is actually going to be 5 in this loop, that's when we are interested in hitting the breakpoint. Not every time. So what we are going to do is say, hey, we want to apply a condition on breakpoint 1, which is what was the breakpoint number of break 10, and we say, okay, the condition needs to be counter needs to be equal to 5. Now if you view all the breakpoints right now, you would actually see that stop only if counter equals 5. This additional condition is now absorbed as part of this breakpoint. So now when we run the program with, let's say, demo pass as the input, you would actually see that the value of counter when we actually break is 5. Fantastic, right? Now this expression which you have here can consist of different variables, registers, and a bunch of other things, right? You could even include convenience variables and things like that, depending on how complicated the conditional breakpoint needs to be, which I leave it to you entirely, right? Okay, now let me show you an example of, let's say, when you don't have the source and you would like to apply a conditional breakpoint, right? So let me go ahead and run the program now with no debugging symbols, right? And what we are going to do is I'm going to disassemble the main program. Now without getting into too much of assembly, what you would notice is that this is specifically the point where we are testing if the value of EAX is 0 or not. We had a string compare, which means if both the strings matched, the value of EAX should be 0, else depending on what the comparison is, you could have some other value, right? Awesome. Now what we want to do is we want to have a conditional breakpoint for all cases when we enter a wrong password. Now when that happens, the value of EAX is going to be non-zero. So what we do is we say, hey, we're going to apply a breakpoint here at this specific instruction. The condition is $EAX is not equal to 0, right? This is what worries us. Let's go back, let's apply the condition. Oops. Oh, my mistake. Let's apply the breakpoint first. This is breakpoint 1, and then we apply the condition on point 1, which is $EAX is not equals 0, right? So there you go. If we do a quick info breakpoints, you would actually see that, hey, stop only if $EAX is not 0. Now I'm going to run the program with, again, demo pass. We hit the breakpoint. You could even go ahead and, let's say, look at the value of EAX by doing an info registers or just by printing the value. It's -1. Let's set the value of EAX at this point to 1. And now let's continue the program. Unfortunately, it does not work, right? Why? Of course, you need to set the value to 0 and not 1. So what we're going to do is, let's rerun the program, hit the breakpoint again, let's inspect the value of EAX, let's set it this time to 0, continue, and there you go, you have correct password, right? So I've shown you two very simple examples, one in which you have the source code and the other in which you actually have been using registers to create conditional breakpoints. Now, as I've mentioned, these can be as simple and complex as you like. You can do a bit of Googling and try out other examples. You can play with your own programs or with binaries and see how this goes. That's all for this video. If you need the PDF slides and the code file to try this out locally, then you can either tweet this video by clicking on tweet and download at the bottom in the description, or you can register for the SGDE for just $50. Thank you. Have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.